Hello students. So today we are here to start with the E part of laws of motion, which is your last part. It is all about gravitation. It will include gravitation, acceleration due to gravity and its different values, the units, mass, weight, all those things. Anything related to gravity. Now, as we have discussed already, that when two particles, suppose this is your first particle and another particle, the two particles, when they are supposed to collide with each other, they exert a force on each other. That is, this first body, let it be m1, mass be m1, and the mass of the other body m2. They are acting on each other. That is the force exerted by the first body on the second, and this is the force exerted by the second body on the first one. So both of them are exerting force on each other. So when the forces are acting on each other, this force, that is the force of attraction, there is an attraction between them. There is a force of attraction between two particles. Why? Because of their masses. I have said m1 and m2, because of their masses. Such type of force of attraction is called as the gravitational force of attraction. So here what we have studied is a definition of gravitational force of attraction. For each and every particle, there is a force of attraction between two particles. Why? Because of their masses. Because of their masses, they always try to come closer to each other. That is, there is an attraction. That's why it is called as a gravitational force of attraction. The definition for only gravitational force is different, but here it's a definition for gravitational force of attraction. So beware, when it is asked in exam on the gravitational force, you have to write about the gravitational force, and here it is about the gravitational force of attraction. So please mention this as a definition. Once again, the force of attraction between the two particles because of their masses m1 and m2 is called as the gravitational force of attraction. Yes. Hello. So now we deal with the actual law of gravitation proposed by Newton. According to Newton, the force of attraction, which is acting between the two bodies, is, first of all, it is directly proportional to the product of their masses, and secondly, it is inversely proportional to the square. Remember this, square of the distance between them. This is called as Newton's law of gravitation. It is called as the Newton's law of gravitation. What is the statement? This is surely going to come in exam. According to Newton, the force of attraction acting between the two bodies is directly proportional to the product of their masses and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. Let me explain you diagrammatically and derive the expression for Newton's law of gravitation. Suppose if I take two bodies as I took previously, first body and another body. Here let the mass of the first body be m1, other body be m2. Now the force will be acting from the first body towards the second body, that is force exerted by the first body towards the second body, and also the second body will exert, that is the force exerted by the second body on the first body. So each of them are acting on each other, and let the distance between the two, as we know, as we have to consider the distance. So if the distance between these two particles or these two bodies is, let it be denoted by small r. So according to this, according to the derivation, according to the statement, the force of attraction that is F, yes, the force of attraction acting between the two bodies, the force which is acting between the two bodies is directly proportional to the product of their masses. Product of their masses means m1 into m2. That means F is proportional to m1 m2. Okay, this is your first part. And secondly, it is said that the force of attraction, again the force of attraction is inversely proportional. So this is sign for proportionality, but when we say inversely proportional, we write 1 upon what inversely proportional to the square of the distance. What is the distance denoted by? R. It is denoted by r. So r, but the square of the distance, therefore r square. So this is your second expression for Newton's law of gravitation. So according to Newton's law, the force of attraction between the two bodies is directly proportional to the product of their masses, but inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. Getting it? So now if I combine these two equations, what it becomes is F is directly proportional to numerator में m1 m2, but upon में it is r square. Getting it? This is F is directly proportional to m1 m2 upon r square. So this is your expression for Newton's law of gravitation. But now when I need to remove this proportionality sign, we use F is equals to capital G into m1 into m2 upon r square, where G is called as a constant of proportionality, which is also known as gravitational constant. And just to mention, the value of this G is always fixed, that is 6.67 into 10 raised to minus 11 Newton meter square plus per kg square. Now how do we get this? I am going to derive it with the unit, but just for your knowledge, first I have covered up the derivation part with the part of G. There is one more important give reason for gravitational constant that I am discussing. So now again I revise. According to the Newton's law, the force of attraction acting between the two bodies, the force which is acting between the two bodies having masses m1 and m2, and the distance between the two particles is r, then the force is directly proportional to the product of their masses. That's why I wrote F is proportional to m1 into m2, and it is also inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. Inversely proportional, therefore F is proportional with 1 upon r square, that is square of the distance. Distance is r, therefore r ka square. When I combine the two equations, it becomes f is proportional to m1 into m2 upon r square. But to make an equation, we need to remove the proportionality sign. So when I remove the proportionality sign, I need to apply a constant value. So f is equals to, instead of proportionality, g, m1 into m2 upon r square. So here we have added an extra terminology g, where g is called as a constant of proportionality, or also known as gravitational constant, whose value is always fixed, that is 6.67 into 10 raised to minus 11 Newton meter square per kg square. Getting it? So this is about Newton's law of gravitation. We have a give reason which is most probably asked in the exams, that G, that this capital G is known as universal gravitational constant. Why do we call G, capital G, as a universal gravitational constant? The answer for it is the value of this capital G, which I have already mentioned, 6.67 into 10 raised to minus 11, that always remains same at all places, and it is independent. It does not depend, independent of the nature of particles, which type of particles it is. It does not depend upon it. Neither it depends upon the temperature, higher, lower. It does not depend upon the temperature value, and neither it depends upon the medium, whether solid, liquid or gases, etc. So since it does not fluctuate, or it does not depend, or it is independent of the particle of nature, temperature and medium, it is not going to change. Therefore we call, therefore it is a universal constant, and since it is a universal constant, we call it as a universal gravitational constant. Getting it? Universal gravitational constant. So this was an important give reason, wherein we were supposed to reason out that this capital G is called as universal gravitation constant. Why do we call universal gravitational constant? Because the value of G remains same at all places. Wherever you go, the value of G remains the same, and it is independent. It does not depend upon the nature of the particle, what temperature and what medium we are taking into consideration, etc. And since it does not depend on anything, it has to be constant throughout, and throughout means universal. Therefore it is a universal constant, which is also known as universal gravitational constant. Getting it? Just now I had said that there were two bodies, one acting and other acting in opposite directions. This was your m1 first particle with masses m1 and m2, the force acting from 1 to 2, force acting from the second body towards the first body. Now when they are acting on each other, the forces acted will be equal in magnitude, that is force exerted by F12 will be equal to F21. But since they are in opposite direction, as I had already said, we write in vector notation, that is the force acting from first body towards the second body is equal to the force exerted by the second body on the first body, but they are in opposite direction. So when they are in opposite direction, we introduce a negative sign, that is negative of F21. So this is to show that the magnitudes are equal. Magnitudes are equal and this is to show that they are in opposite direction. Getting it? The two concepts for force which are acting on the two bodies. Now we derive the unit for gravitation. Now what is the unit for gravitation? Now just now we said the formula was F is equals to G into m1 into m2 upon r square. If I cross multiply this, I want only G, so this whole part will be shifted on the other side, and therefore G will become F into, this will be cross multiplied, it will become r square upon में the numerator part of this will be, when shifted, will become the denominator over here, that is m1 into m2. Now if I try to put up the units of each of this from the previous chapters, the unit for force is Newton. Unit for radius, it is the distance, is in meter, but it is meter square, upon mass is in kg, and there is one more kg. So how do we abbreviate it? It is Newton into meter square upon kg square. When I take it upwards, I can write it as Newton meter square per kg square. So this is the unit for G, that is gravitational constant, and as I said, the value of G is 6.67 into 10 raised to minus 11 Newton. See here the unit, Newton into meter square per kg square. Got it? So in this further, if I add on, if I consider the two bodies, masses m1 and the other body of mass 1 kg, both the bodies are of 1 kg, and plus the distance between the two bodies is only 1 meter, that is first body and the second body. The distance between the two bodies is 1 meter. The mass of this is 1 kg, the mass of this is 1 kg. So if I substitute in the formula that G was equal to F is equals to G into m1 into m2 upon r square, then F is equals to G as it is, m1 is 1 kg, m2 is also 1 kg, radius is 1 meter, so 1 square, 1 into 1 square is 1, so everything remains 1. So what is left over here is only F and G. So we have proved that therefore F is equal to G. The force exerted between the two bodies, is equal to the gravitational constant. When they are equal, when we take the two bodies of equal masses, that is 1 kg and 1 kg, and the distance between them is 1 meter, and that is why we say and we write it as, pay attention, we write it as the gravitational constant G is numerically gravitational constant G is numerically equal to the magnitude of force of attraction between the two masses, each of 1 kg, placed at a distance or separation of 1 meter. So from this F is equals to G, what we have derived is the gravitational constant G, the value of this G is numerically equal. If this is 10 newtons, this is also 10 newtons. So this is your magnitude. So when I say gravitational constant G is numerically equal to the magnitude of force, the magnitude 10 newton and 10 newton of attraction between the two masses, it is always constant. It will remain constant only and only if the force of attraction between the two masses each of 1 kg, that is masses are considered to be 1 kg each and they are placed at a separation of 1 meter from each other, then we say that F and G both are equal, that is the force of gravity is equals to the gravitational constant. Getting it? So this is about the unit part and the value of G, and when do we say that the value of F and G are equal. This is your definition part. So now as we proceed further, now we deal with some features or characteristic of gravitational force. So the first point about it is always attractive. It is always attractive, that is the two bodies always act on each other, they always act on each other, that is why it is said it is always attractive. Secondly, as it was given in the definition, it is directly proportional to the product of the masses. As I said, m1 into m2, product of the masses, that is F was proportional to m1 into m2. The third point, the third characteristic is it is inversely proportional. It is inversely proportional to the square of separation between them. This was also in the Newton's law. Inversely proportional to the square of the separation, that was F is proportional to 1 upon r square. I call it as F is inversely proportional to r square. So just think about it, that if the separation is doubled, suppose if r, which was the distance, suppose if the distance was originally r and now the new distance is double the r, then what will happen to this is F is proportional to 1 upon double r, 2r the whole square, which is 1 upon 4 times r square. So the value has become 1/4. So the force will by doubling the separation, when the separation, that is when the value of r is doubled, the force of attraction between them is reduced to 1/4, as I have proved here. Yes. Next and the last point of difference is this features, what we are studying, is only possible for heavenly bodies is significant or can take place significant between heavenly bodies, but it is not possible or it is insignificant between ordinary bodies. Why it is not possible? The important give reason, because of the small magnitude. The value of g is very small, the small magnitude of g, as you have seen that g का value के अंदर it was 10 raised to minus 11, anything raised to negative 11 is much smaller, so the magnitude here is much smaller. So these are the main characteristics of gravitational force. First of all, it is always attractive, and according to the definition it is directly proportional to the product of their masses. According to the definition, it is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them, that is r square. And if the distance is doubled by doubling the separation, that is if r has become 2 times, then the force of attraction becomes 1/4 times. It becomes 1/4 times. It will reduce by 1/4 time. And thirdly and lastly, it is only possible between heavenly bodies. Heavenly bodies like Earth, different planets, Moon, all those heavenly bodies. It is for celestial bodies. It is significant between heavenly bodies, but it is insignificant, does not feature out between ordinary bodies. Why? Why does not it take part in such things? Because the value of g is very small, and that is why we do not calculate for small bodies or ordinary particles, but it is only for heavenly bodies. Getting it? These are all the characteristic features of gravitational force. A very important topic that is sure to come in exam. We are studying about the importance of the law of gravitation. What is the importance of law of gravitation? That is where it is applicable, under what circumstances, under which type of particles, what type of mass it is applicable, that we are going to study. So Newton's used this law just to explain, first of all, that is the motion of planets around the sun. Yeah, both are heavenly bodies, so we can use this. Secondly, the motion of moon or any other satellite around the earth, or it may be the motion of a freely falling body. So when a body is falling freely, the velocity goes on increasing, and the bodies which are falling from a greater height, that is some meteors, asteroids, or some heavenly bodies, again we use the Newton's law of gravitation. So the importance of law of gravitation is for the following conditions, where we are studying about the motion of any planet around the sun, or the motion of moon or any other satellite around the earth, or the motion of a freely falling body. Okay, so this is your first part. We'll continue with the next part in the next session. Thank you, boys. Thank you, girls. Thank you, students. with which the earth attracts a body is called the force due to gravity. On the body, but which body? The body which can be taken to act vertically downwards at the center of gravity of the body. So what does the definition say is, the force with which the earth attracts, the earth is attracting an object or a body towards itself. So the force with which it is attracting, the earth is attracting an object, the earth is attracting an object, the force with which, the force gravity, यहाँ से the earth is exerting a force because of which the body is moving towards the center of the earth. The force with which the earth is attracting a body is called the force due to gravity on that body, which can be taken to act vertically downwards. See, I have shown you the arrow, vertically downwards at the center. It is acting towards the center of the earth, as well as the center of the object, center of gravity of the body. So this is about the force due to gravity. Now we have to derive expression where two planetary bodies or one planetary body and any other particle or any other body is taken. How do we derive for two different masses? Let us see. Now suppose I am taking two different masses, that is the mass of earth. If I consider it as capital M, then I am taking another body as mass of another body. Here I am denoting it by small t. There we had taken separately M1 and M2. So here this becomes your M1 and this is your M2. Okay, and let the distance or the radius of the earth is denoted by capital R. Okay, then according to the law, according to the Newton's second law, what we had defined in the second law was that F is equals to G M1 into M2 upon small r square. So what will the formula change and become? It will become F is equals to G will remain same, but your M1 has become mass of the earth, that is capital M. M2 has become mass of the body, that is small m, upon r square. R is the distance. Here the distance is the radius of the earth. Therefore we take it as capital R square. So this becomes an expression for the force when two particles, two objects, when earth and a body are attracted towards each other. So here if I substitute the values, here the mass of the earth, capital M, the value of capital M is 5.96 into 10 raised to 24 kg. Okay, and the mass of the body, is considered to be 1 kg. Okay, the radius of the earth is fixed. These two are fixed, mass of the earth and the radius of the earth. This is fixed, that is 6.37 into 10 raised to 6 meters. So when I substitute this values in the formula, therefore what I get is F is equals to G. G का value क्या लिया था हम लोगों ने? It was 6.67 into 10 raised to minus 11. Is it okay? एक ब्रैकेट में रखता हूँ, into capital M. Capital M is ब्रैकेट में 5.96 into 10 raised to 24 in the bracket into M, small m. Small m I have considered 1 kg and full upon the radius. Radius is considered 6.37 into 10 raised to 6, but the whole square. So after calculating this, when you calculate all this thing, calculations I'll be showing you with the numericals. So here when you solve it, you are approximately close to 9.8 Newton. Force is given in Newton. So you have got acceleration, this force, the force acting on the two bodies is 9.8 Newtons. So we have established, we have come to know that Earth always attracts a body of mass 1 kg by a force of about 9.8 Newton towards its center. Getting it? So from this expression, this was another expression where two different bodies are taken, one as a earth and other non-heavenly body. Previously I said heavenly bodies. So here one is a heavenly body and other is any object, any stone or any meteor, any stone which is falling from the space surface. So here for the force G, M, capital M, small m upon r square, the mass of the earth is always constant. It is taken as 5.96 into 10 raised to 24. Mass we are considering as 1 kg and radius of the earth is 6.37 into 10 raised to 6. When I substitute all the values in the formula and after cancellation, I am going to get 9.8 Newton, which we already know. The G ka value is 9.8 Newton. So here this is acceleration, force due to gravity. So the force due to gravity has become 9.8 Newton. We have proved it. That means from this we come to know that Earth always attracts a body of mass 1 kg by a force of 9.8 Newton towards its center. Sir, लेकिन if this mass is not 1 kg, अगर 2 kg रहेगा तो multiply by this by 2. Getting it? अगर ये 2 kg होगा तो multiply this by 2, तो that much force will be acting. अगर ये 3 kg हो गया तो multiply this by 3, तो accordingly you get the force in Newton. समझ में आ रहा है? This was for the definition purpose and a derivation purpose. So there is one important point to be noted. The point to be noted is, we know that as Earth attracts an object towards it, the object also attracts the earth towards it, that too by an equal force. Now just assume an earth attracts an object. This earth is attracting an object is being attracted. So but we had seen previously that when first body is attracting, force is acting from first body to the second body, same amount of force should be acting from second body to the first body. Is it? Yeah, this we had studied in the law. So as earth attracts an object towards it, earth is attracting this object towards it, the object should also attract the earth towards it, that too by an equal force. यानी we mean to say F12 should equal to F21 होना चाहिए, but it does not happen. Why? Because earth is much heavier. It is much heavier as compared to this body. So earth can pull the object towards itself, but the object cannot pull the earth towards it. That is inertia or the mass. Since the object is free to move, it starts moving towards the earth, but the earth, why? because of its large inertia. Here I mean to say heavier mass. ब्रैकेट में लिख रहा हूं मैं. It does not move. It does not move towards the object. Getting it? This is what I said, what I meant to say, that when two bodies are attracting, when two objects are attracting each other, the force exerted by both the objects should be equal. But here one of the body is the earth and the other is a smaller object. So as the earth attracts an object, as the earth is attracting the object towards itself, in similar manner the object should also attract the earth towards it. But this does not happen. Since the object is free to move, this object is free to move, so it will start moving towards the earth. Okay, I can see the object is moving towards the earth, but the earth, because of its large inertia, that is the heavier mass, it does not move towards the object. Getting it? And very important note to be noted, and also can be come as a give reason, that the earth is not attracted by the object, whereas the object is attracted towards the earth. Getting it? Then now the next topic is about the acceleration due to gravity. Acceleration due to gravity. This topic has already been covered in the previous chapter, but here again we revise it. I had said about it that Galileo was the first one to suggest everything about this, but the what we say, the prize, the gift was given to Newton, because he further processed upon the statements which were given upon by Galileo, because Galileo was not accepted, his theories were not accepted at that time. So Newton further, during his century, he gave forward this theory and it was approved and he got Nobel Prize for it. So here when we are defining acceleration due to gravity, it is defined as, definition, the rate at which the velocity of a freely falling body increases is called the acceleration due to gravity. There is one more definition, we'll understand both of them. In other words, it is the acceleration which is produced in a freely falling body due to the gravitational force, of attraction, of the earth. So we'll try to understand the definition. Acceleration due to gravity, the rate at which the velocity of a freely falling body increases. If a body is released from some height, it will move in a downward direction, but when it is moving in a downward direction towards the center of the earth, what happens is the velocity goes on increasing. Velocity goes on increasing. So when the velocity is increasing, there is change in velocity. समझ में आ रहा है? Velocity, I said कि velocity increase होते जा रहा है. जब velocity increase होते जा रहा है, इसका मतलब there is some change in the velocity. पहले कम था, बाद में बढ़ गया, बाद में और बढ़ा, ultimately बढ़ते बढ़ते it will strike the ground. मतलब when there is इंक्रीज इन वेलोसिटी, देयर इज चेंज इन वेलोसिटी, एंड चेंज इन वेलोसिटी का मतलब होता है एक्सेलरेशन. सो when acceleration is also increasing, the body is accelerated. लेकिन सर ये सब acceleration क्यों हो रहा है? Because of the pull. Which pull? Gravitational force. The rate at which, कितना टाइम के अंदर, कितना टाइम, rate is the time, the rate at which the velocity of a freely falling body increases is called the acceleration due to gravity. Or in other words, it is the acceleration. Okay, it is the acceleration. ये मैं बता रहा हूँ, ये जो body is falling downwards, it is accelerating. So the acceleration which is produced in such a freely falling body because of what? Because of the gravitational force of attraction by the earth is called as acceleration due to gravity. समझ में आ रहा है? So this definitions understand with respect to this. It will be a clear-cut doubt clearance in your mind. Getting it? Further it is about jagah. Okay. Further it is about, I had already said that acceleration due to gravity denotation, it is denoted by the letter small g. Okay, and it is said to be a vector quantity. It is a vector quantity. Why it is vector quantity? Because here it requires direction in which it is falling, whether it is moving from bottom to upward direction or from up in the downward direction. So since the direction is required, it is a vector quantity. Then we had already discussed that the value of g is variable. The value of g changes from place to place. That is why on an average, I had said on an average g का value is 9.8 meters per second square. That is an average value. But the value of g at the equator, what was the value at the equator, and the value of g on the poles. Description दिया था. These are the poles and this is your equator. Less the distance, more is the gravity. तो इसका मतलब more is 9.83 meters per second square. और यहाँ पर ज़्यादा डिस्टेंस है, more the distance from the center, less will be the gravity. तो here it is 9.78 meters per second square. This is not mentioned in textbook once again. So these are the average values, and the values of g goes on changing from place to place. The value of g is different on different planets as well as satellites. The value of g on the moon, yes, this we are trying to understand. Now first let me clear this and we proceed with earth and the moon. Yes, the statement says the value of g on moon's surface is nearly 1/6, 1/6 time, 1/6 the value of g on the Earth's surface. If you want to know how, let me show you. For example, abhi previously we had taken that the mass of the earth is already 5.96 into 10 raised to 24 kg. Then the mass of the moon is 7.36 into 10 raised to 22 kg. The radius of the earth is 6.37 into 10 raised to 6 meters, and the radius of the moon is 1.75 into 10 raised to 6 meter. Please remember the values. Okay, so now if this I apply on a body taking the mass of the earth and the radius, the acceleration due to gravity can be formed as G. The formula for G is Gm upon r square. Now how do we come to this formula? I'll be proving this after this. So first for the earth, I am stating for the earth G will become G, capital G का value is 6.67 into 10 raised to minus 11 into capital M. This is for the earth. So mass of the earth is 5.96 into 10 raised to 24 upon r square. Radius of the earth, that is 6.37 into 10 raised to 6, but the whole square. When you solve the value for this G, that is G on the earth, you get it as approximately 9.8 meters per second square. So the value of G on the earth has become 9.8 meters per second square. The same thing when I solve for the moon. For the moon, so value of G on the moon will become again the formula Gm upon r square. The value of G is 6.67 into 10 raised to minus 11 into mass, लेकिन mass of the moon is 7.36 into 10 raised to 22 upon r square. Radius, but the radius of the moon is 1.75 into 10 raised to 6, but the whole square. So here again, when you solve this, you get somewhat approximate value about 1.6 meters per second square. Getting it? This is the value of G on the moon. Okay, so earth is this much, moon is this much. So now just for the comparison sake, are you able to see? Okay, I need some space, खाली इतना सा space ले रहा हूँ. Here suppose if I divide G on the moon upon G on the earth, G on the moon is 1.6 upon G on the earth is 9.8. When I shift, it is shifted. It is 16 upon 98. 16 about 6 36 and 96. It is approximately बाजू में आ रहा है. Approximately बाजू में आ रहा है, मतलब 16 1 and 16 6 96 point something. मतलब it will be approximately around 1 upon 6. Approximately around 1 upon 6. इसका मतलब I have proved that G on the moon upon G on the earth is around 1 upon 6. So when I cross multiply, the value of gravity on the moon is 1 upon 6 times the value of G on the earth. This is for your understanding. I have proved why it is said to be 1/6. This can come as problem. For problem, they will give you the gravity on the earth and they will ask you to find the gravity on the moon. Getting it? All this thing, this was with the example. I am trying to show you why the value of G on the moon surface is 1/6 the value on the surface of the earth. Getting it? Please go through it properly. Now we try to frame a relationship between small g and capital G. What is your small g? This is acceleration due to gravity. And what is your capital G? It is gravitational constant. Okay, so what is the relation between these two? We'll try to understand. Now, in the momentum part, in the second law, we had proved that force is equals to mass into acceleration. Yes, that is, we were writing F is equals to m into a. Okay, but here we are dealing with acceleration due to gravity. समझ में आ रहा है? We are dealing with acceleration due to gravity. So instead of a we need to use g. So the formula F is equals to m into g. समझिएगा? m into g. But we have already proved in the according to Newton's law of gravitation that F is equals to G capital M small m upon r square. So since F is m into g, here F is g m upon r square. When I compare the two statements, here statement number 1 and statement number 2, so from 1 and 2 I can say that this value of g capital M upon small m upon r square is equals to this m into g. Can you cut m and m from both sides? So what we are left out with is g is equal to capital G upon m into m upon r square. So this is your derivation to find the acceleration due to gravity when the mass of the earth is given. इसका मतलब from this we can conclude that to find the, listen properly, to find acceleration due to gravity we only need the mass of the earth and the radius of the earth. This is about earth or any other planet. कोई भी heavenly body होगा, to find gravity on that planet we need the mass of that planet and the radius of that planet. Getting it? So the value, what does it depend upon and what does it not depend upon? So the things are, it depends on the mass and the radius of that planet or any other satellite. So this will be applicable to solve the problems related to gravity, where only the mass and the radius of the planet is given to you. Okay, we continue in the next session, the remaining part. Okay, bye students. So now we continue with the next part, which is about free fall of an object. Now an object, when it is freely falling, how does the equations change? In the second chapter of motion in one direction or motion in one dimension, there we had studied some equations of motion. Those equations were, first was about v is equals to u plus a t. Second was about s is equals to ut plus half a t square. And the third equation was about v square is equals to u square plus 2as, where v stands for the final velocity, u stands for the initial velocity, a stands for acceleration, and t stands for the time interval taken. Your s stands for distance or displacement. But now when we are considering free fall of an object, your velocities will remain the same, but the acceleration, instead of acceleration, we are going to put it as acceleration due to gravity, because when we were studying about equation of motions, it was a horizontal movement, the car moving along a horizontal path. But now when we are talking about a free fall of an object, instead of a, we are going to consider it as g, and the value of g also, whether we are considering it as positive or negative, will depend upon two things. I'll tell you. Also, the displacement. Here, when it was moving in an horizontal direction, we were considering the distance horizontally. But when the distance is considered from top to bottom, instead of s, we are going to put it as height, that is h. Getting it? So, how do we consider whether g is positive or negative? So, two cases are there. If the object is moving vertically downwards, there we consider a is equals to plus g. Why? Moving vertically downwards. So, when it is moving downwards, it is acting along the gravity, acting along the direction of gravity, because gravitation is from top to the bottom, that is towards the earth. That's why we consider it as positive g. And the second condition is when the object is moving vertically upwards. When you are moving an object vertically upwards, what you are doing is you are going against the gravity, you are moving against gravity, and when you are moving against gravity, we consider a to be minus g. Getting it? We will take it as negative value. So, this also, instead of s, we are going to substitute h. So, now the first case if I take, that is, if a body falls from rest, okay, if the body is falling from rest, let me represent it diagrammatically. If a body falls from rest, when it is falling from rest, your u, initial velocity, will be 0, u is 0. Getting it? Then it is coming downwards, so you are going to use g as positive, g as acceleration will become plus g. So, what will all these equations become? Your first equation was v is equals to u plus a t. So, it will become v is equals to, u has become 0 plus a has become g, and t will remain as it is. So, we have v is equals to gt. That is the first equation. Then this is your first part. The second part would be, second equation was s is equals to ut plus half a t square. So, instead of s, I told you we are using height. So, the height is equals to u into t, u is 0. So, 0 into this t plus half into a, but a is now positive g, and t will remain as it is. So, t square. So, what we are left is h is equals to 0, 0 into t is 0. So, we are left out with h is equals to half g t square. Getting it? This is your second part. And the third part, third equation was v square is equals to u square plus 2as. So, how does it change? V square remains the same, u is 0, so it becomes 0 square plus 2 into a, but now a has become g and s has become h. So, therefore, v square is equals to 0 square is 0, we eliminate it, only thing left is 2gh. So, getting it? So, for a body, if a body is falling from rest, it is starting from rest in a vertically downward direction, we use u is 0 and acceleration as plus g. So, the equations, the three equations change and become v is equals to gt, h is equals to half gt square, and v square is equals to 2gh. Getting it? So, this was your first condition. Now, for the second condition, let me, okay, for the second condition, that is, if the initial velocity is u, matlab it is already moving, then how do we consider already moving, and further the final velocity will be something different. So we are measuring somewhere in between. यहाँ पर already some velocity से चल रहा है और finally यहाँ पर कुछ अलग हो जाएगा. So u and v both have some value. It is not zero. So ऐसे में how do the equations change? So here u will remain as it is, v will remain as it is. Only thing is a will change to g and s will change to h. So your first equation, your first part, v is equals to u plus at will become v is equals to u plus a के जगह पर g and t will remain as it is. So this becomes your first equation. उसी का ही second equation will be, second equation was s is equals to ut plus half at square. So s will become h, u will remain as it is, t will remain as it is, plus half will remain as it is, a has become g, it becomes g and with t square. So this becomes the formula for height when it is already moving with some velocity. And the third case in this will be v square is equals to u square plus 2as. How do the equation change? V will remain same, so v square, u will remain same, so u square plus 2as. A is g and s is h. So equation for v square is equal to u square plus 2gh. So this three different equations in case when the object is already moving with some velocity u. Getting it? This was your second case. Now the third case is if a body is thrown vertically upwards. When you are throwing an object vertically upwards, the thing changing will be, instead of a, since it is moving against gravity, we will put a के जगह पर minus g. So the equations will become, first equation will become v is equals to u plus at will become v is equals to u plus के जगह पर minus a के जगह पर g and t, u minus gt. This becomes your first equation. Second equation will become v, it was s is equals to ut plus half a t square. So this will change to s changes to h. So height is equals to ut plus half a is minus g with t square. So h is equals to ut plus minus is minus half g t square. So this becomes the formula for height. And the third and the last case is v square is equal to u square plus 2as. How do the equation change? V square is equal to u square plus 2 into minus g and s is h. So v square is equal to u square minus 2gh. So these are the three different cases wherein if a body falls from rest, secondly if the initial velocity is u, and third if a body is thrown vertically upwards. So in these three cases we have derived the formulas. This derivation is not going to be asked, but this formulas we are going to apply while solving the problems. So please note it properly and go through it properly. So here in the last case, when an object is thrown vertically upwards, we got three different equations that were V is equals to U minus GT. Secondly, we got H is equals to UT minus half GT square, and third we got V square is equals to U square minus 2GH. So diagrammatically, listen properly, if an object is thrown upwards from the bottom surface, it is being thrown in an upward direction. Object is thrown in an upward direction. When an object is thrown in an upward direction, if I consider the equation when the object reaches the maximum height, when an object reaches the maximum height, when object reaches maximum height, then what is that maximum height? We had an equation V square is equals to U square minus 2GH. Okay, here let me tell you that when an object reaches to a maximum height, when it is thrown, it reaches the maximum height, it stops over there and then again starts falling down. So since it has stopped at the final point, we consider V is equals to 0. So when V is equals to 0, this becomes 0 square is equal to U square minus 2GH. 0 square is 0. I take this negative 2GH on this side. So it becomes 2 times GH is equals to U square. Therefore, what will be your height? So height will become U square upon what is left out, 2G. It will come in the denominator. So what is this height? Which height? Maximum height. So the maximum height, that is this much height which it has covered, is U square upon 2G. Getting it? But how much will be the total distance covered? The total distance covered, the total distance covered will be, first when it is going from bottom, from the ground surface to the top, that is your maximum height tak pahunchega, and then again from the top it is reaching down. So it is traveling in a downward direction. So the maximum, the total distance traveled by the object when it is thrown to a maximum height and reaching the bottom again to the same position, it will become the height considered 2 times, that is once while going upwards and other while coming down. So it becomes 2 times h, 2 times h, which is 2 times maximum height was height which is maximum, that is U square upon 2 times G, where 2 and 2 cancels. So the total distance becomes U square upon G. So this is your derivation for the total distance covered by an object when it is thrown vertically upwards. Got it? Just to go through it again, when an object reaches to a maximum height, its final velocity becomes 0 because it stops at a final position. So when I take the third equation, V square is equals to U square minus 2GH, I put V ke jagah par 0. So it becomes 0 square is equal to U square minus 2GH. 0 has no value, so 0 goes, negative GH I am taking on the other side becomes positive GH. I want the equation for H, therefore 2G I am taking it down. Therefore the maximum height reached is U square upon 2G. This is just one direction, that is from bottom to the top level. But when it is traveling, it is again going to drop down, that is again it is going to come to the ground surface, that is travel from top to bottom. So the total distance will be going from bottom to the top and again from top to bottom, that is the height is considered 2 times. Therefore we have taken 2 times the maximum height. Therefore 2 multiplied by maximum height is U square upon 2G. 2 and 2 cancels, you are left with U square upon G. So this is the equation to find the total distance traveled when an object is thrown vertically upwards. Now we'll try to find the total time taken. Total time taken. So again, when the object reaches the maximum height, what happens to the time? You take the equation v is equals to u minus gt. Again we know that v is 0. So when I put 0, it is u minus gt. Take this minus gt on this side, it becomes gt is equals to only u, and therefore the time taken will be u upon g. The time taken is u upon g. This is the time only to reach the maximum height. So can I write it as time taken to reach the maximum height? So if I want the total time taken, it will become time to reach from bottom to top and again top to bottom. The time taken will be same because the distance is same. Therefore we consider 2 times the maximum time taken. So it will become 2 into u upon g, which is 2u upon g. So this becomes an expression for the total time taken when an object is thrown vertically upwards. Getting it? So these are the 2 equations which you might require while solving the problems. Now we move on to a very important topic about mass and weight. What is the difference between mass and weight? So let me explain you, and along with the explanation it will cover up the short note part as well as the difference part. How is mass defined? Mass is defined as it is a measure of the quantity of matter which is contained in the body when at rest. So mass is actually the intrinsic property. Intrinsic means within the body. It is the matter, the biological matter, that is bones, muscular, water, all this. It is a measure of quantity of matter which is present or contained in a body at rest. So that is your mass. But when we say weight, weight is something different. When we talk about weight, the gravitational force comes into picture, because when the gravity is acting on a body of some mass, it becomes a weight. That's why it is defined as it is the force with which the earth attracts the body. It is the force. Which force? The gravitational force. Weight is actually the gravitational force which is acting upon a body because of the earth's gravity. It is a force with which the earth attracts the body, which is the weight of the body. Secondly, so that was about the definition part. Secondly, as mass does not have any direction, it is said to be a scalar quantity. But since weight requires direction, whether it is in a, depends on the value of g, whether moving upwards or downwards, and since it is a force, we consider it as a vector quantity. Getting it? Thirdly, the units. The SI unit for this is kg. We measure in kilogram, and the CGS unit for this is grams. For this, the SI unit is Newton, that is your capital N, and in CGS system it is dyne. Getting it? Further, I am leaving some space over here to just understand the relation which I have already taught previously, the conversion part, that 1 Newton is equals to 10 raised to 5 dynes. Okay, this is an extra part not to be written in difference, but I am covering the short note, so it will include all this thing also. Then about the fourth point, how do we measure it? It can be measured by a physical, or we call it as a beam balance. Getting it? And here it is to be measured by a spring balance. It is measured by a spring balance, which is calibrated to read in Newton. That I had shown the experiment, the hook and all those things. Here the graduations are called as calibration, and here the readings are given in Newton, 4 Newton. So that is your weight. Getting it? So it is measured by a physical balance, and here it is measured by a spring balance. Further, a very important point, it is always constant. It is always constant, and it does not change with change in place, because the body remains the same, the mass remains the same, the internal matter remains the same. So body ka mass is not going to change, though you go from ground level to a higher altitude, or you may go to any other planet, but the mass, your body, will remain the same. Only the weight can change. Why? Because at different places the gravity, the value of g is different, and since the value of g is different, the weight goes on changing at different places. So here we put it as, it is not constant, but it changes or it varies from place to place. Why does it change? Due to change in the value of g. Getting it? So this is your difference between the mass and the weight. Just to go through it again, the definition says it is a measure of the quantity of matter what is present inside the body, that is only measured, that is the mass, the intrinsic property. It is a measure of the quantity of matter which is present inside the body at rest. But here it is the gravitational force with which the earth attracts the body or an object. Here it does not have any direction, therefore it is a scalar quantity. And since weight is a type of force and force is a vector quantity, the weight is also a vector quantity. The unit wise, the SI unit to measure mass is kg, 5 kg, 10 kg, 15 kg, and in CGS system it is grams. Whereas weight, since it is a type of force, it is measured in Newton, and in CGS it is measured in dyne. This is extra thing I have noted down, that the relation between Newton and dyne is 1 Newton is equal to 10 raised to 5 dynes to solve the problems. How it is measured? Mass is measured by a physical or a beam balance, and the weight is measured by a spring balance. Whereas mass, as I said, it is a quantity of matter which is already present inside the body. So whatever is inside the body, it is not going to change as you move from place to place. That's why it is constant and does not change with change in place. But here the weight depends on gravity, and since it depends on gravity, it is not constant. So it changes or varies from place to place. Why? Due to the change in the value of g. So this is your basic difference between mass and weight, which is regularly asked in exams for a 2 marks of difference. Okay. Now we just show a relationship between the weight of an object and the mass. We already said that force is equals to mass into acceleration. But when we are considering a body which is moving upwards or downwards, that is vertically, that time we don't consider acceleration, we say acceleration due to gravity. And what is force? Force acting on an object. But when the object is moving upwards or downwards, we say it is gravitational force. It is gravitational force. It is gravitational force. And the gravitational force acting on a body is called as weight. So the force will now be called as weight. So weight is equals to mass into acceleration due to gravity. And how are they abbreviated? Weight is abbreviated as W, mass is M, and acceleration due to gravity is G. So this becomes your formula to find the weight of an object. If you know the mass of the object, and the value of G will be provided to you, either to use it as 9.8 meters per second square, or they might give you use 10 meters per second square. Depends. अगर मेंशन कुछ भी नहीं किया है तो you have to use 9.8 meters per second square. Okay, an easier part. Now there are some gravitational units of force, like we call it as kilogram force or gram force. So in MKS system, it is, the unit is kgf, which is called as kilogram force. How it is defined? They can ask you the definition. 1 kilogram force is actually the force which is acting, due to gravity, where on a body of mass of 1 kg. That is 1 kilogram force will equal to force. You are talking about 1 kilogram force, that is force due to gravity, on what? On a mass of 1 kg. So when it is force due to gravity, we are talking about weight. So when we are talking about weight, the formula for weight is mass into acceleration due to gravity. So the mass of 1 kg, so it is already 1, and acceleration due to gravity is 9.8 meters per second square. So your 1 kgf becomes 9.8 Newton. Getting it? It is expressed in newtons. So this is your 1 kilogram force. So again I am revising 1 kilogram force. It is in MKS system, meter, kilogram and second system. That is 1 kilogram force. How much? 1 kilogram force. When an object of 1 kg, on an object of 1 kg, how much force is acting? How much force is acting on this body is called as 1 kilogram force. So 1 kilogram force is the force due to gravity, which is acting on a body of mass 1 kg, and that's why 1 kilogram force is dependent on the gravity, and gravity is 9.8. Therefore the formula or the conversion factor is 1 kilogram force is equal to 9.8 newtons. Similarly, in CGS system, we consider it as gram force. Which is written as GF. So how do we define gram force? It is defined as 1 gram force is the force due to gravity, same definition, but on a body of a mass 1 gram. So again, if I go for the derivation, 1 gram force will equal to the force due to gravity on a body of mass 1 gram. So that is your weight, and the weight ka formula is mass into acceleration due to gravity. So your mass here it is 1 gram into here it is kg. So together it had become 9.8 kilogram meters per second square, and kilogram meters per second square is Newton. So same way here, mass is 1 gram and acceleration due to gravity is again 980. It is 980 centimeters per second square. So what does it totally become is 980 grams into centimeter per second square, which is grams into centimeter per second square is written as dynes. So it becomes 980 dynes. So 1 gram force is equals to 980 dynes. Let me put up 1 gram force is equals to 980 dyne. So this is again a conversion in CGS system. So this was all about the chapter. Nothing is left, only the numerical part is left, that I will be doing in the next video. Okay, so all the best for the chapter. Go through it properly, note down in your notebooks and make a proper sequential notes, definitions, differences, derivations, so that it becomes easier for your learning. Okay, bye.